There are warning signs posted along the Big River in St. Francois County telling you not to eat the fish, not old signs from the 1970s that nobody updated. Current signs, actively maintained. They recommend that if you pull a fish out of the Big River, you think carefully before putting it in your mouth. Children and pregnant women are advised to skip the fish entirely. Most people who drive past these signs assume it is standard government caution, the kind of fine print that appears on everything and means nothing in particular. Like the warning on a hairdryer telling you not to use it in the shower. Surely nobody needs to be told, they do need to be told. And the reason is a specific, documented century-long contamination story that the EPA has been working on since 1992 and is not finished yet. The Big River is one river. There are 8 more on this list. Some you have floated, some you have canoed past with a cold drink in your hand, looking at trees. Most of what this video is going to tell you is not on any signage at the put-in. Subscribe right now, hit the button and the bell. River 1, the Big River in St. Francois County. The Big River drains the old lead belt, one of the most productive lead mining districts in the history of the world. From the 1700s through the mid-20th century, more than 8.5 million tons of lead came out of the ground in this region. The companies extracted the lead, built fortunes, and left. What they left behind was 7 major mine waste pile sites covering more than 2,800 acres, sitting adjacent to the river, eroding into it during every rainfall event. Scientists from the USGS traced the contamination more than 90 miles downstream using isotopic fingerprinting, a chemical signature that matched the specific lead profile of the mine tailings all the way to where the Big River meets the Meramec. The contamination does not require guessing. It has been forensically traced. In 1977, approximately 38,000 cubic meters of mine waste from the dislodged tailings pile slumped directly into the river in a single heavy rainfall event. 38,000 cubic meters in one day added to the steady ongoing contribution from the other pile sites. The EPA added the site to the national priorities list in 1992. More than 3,000 residential properties have been remediated. 51 miles of new water mains installed. After 33 years on the Superfund list, the cleanup of the river channel itself is still in the analysis phase. The fish warning signs have been posted for years. They will be there for more years. The fish cannot leave. The signs tell you what the fish cannot. River 2, the Meramec River in St. Louis and Franklin counties. The Meramec River watershed has been ranked among the 12 worst in the United States for reproductive toxins, chemicals that disrupt hormones and interfere with reproduction, based on EPA toxic release inventory data. That ranking is worth pausing on. Not worst in Missouri, worst in America. There is also Times Beach. In the early 1970s, the town of Times Beach had a dust problem on its unpaved roads. The town contracted with a waste oil hauler named Russell Bliss to spray the roads for dust control. Bliss mixed his waste oil with production byproducts from a plant manufacturing hexachlorophene, a disinfectant that produces dioxin as a waste product. The dioxin went onto the roads. Children played on those roads. Pets ran across them. In 1982, the Meramec River flooded Times Beach. The floodwaters spread the contaminated soil through the entire community. The EPA tested the soil and found dioxin at levels up to 127 parts per billion. At the time, dioxin was described by federal officials as the most toxic synthetic chemical ever produced. The entire town was evacuated, every building demolished. The federal government bought out every property. Times Beach no longer exists as a community. It is a state park now, which is the kind of redemption arc that does not fully account for what came before it. The Meramec still exists. People float it every summer weekend. The two facts coexist without obvious tension, which is itself somewhat worth thinking about. Hit the like button. It tells the algorithm this story matters. River 3, the Gasconade River, Central Ozarks. On Christmas Eve 1988, a weld failed on a Shell Pipeline Corporation line crossing the Gasconade River. 863,000 gallons of crude oil entered the water. It was one of the largest inland oil spills in American history at the time. The cleanup took months. The damage to aquatic life in that stretch of the Gasconade was severe and documented in detail by state and federal environmental agencies. The Gasconade is also one of the most crooked rivers in Missouri. Geographers have noted that it takes approximately 400 miles of river to cover a straight line distance of about 100 miles, which means it moves slowly enough through its floodplain that whatever enters it has time to interact with the surrounding ecosystem before moving on. The same geological character that makes it visually stunning to float makes it hold contamination longer than a straighter, faster river would. The river is beautiful. It has also been through things. Both of those statements are true simultaneously, and the float trip operators who run trips on it are not lying when they describe it as one of Missouri's premier float rivers. They are just not including the Christmas Eve 1988 chapter in the brochure. River 4. The Spring River, Lawrence and Berry counties. The Spring River in the southwest Missouri runs cold and clear through some of the most attractive float trip country in the state. For decades, it received discharge from a coal-fired power plant before the plant retired, and coal ash constituents, including mercury, arsenic, and selenium, entered the system. Mercury bioaccumulates in fish tissue, concentrating in the flesh so that eating the fish exposes you to far more mercury than swimming in the same water would. You can swim in mercury-impacted water without immediate harm. You can eat mercury-impacted fish for years before noticing something has gone wrong. The difference between those two outcomes is whether you read the fish consumption advisories that most recreational users skip. The Spring River also receives runoff from some of the most intensive poultry farming operations in southwest Missouri. The nutrient and bacteria loading from large poultry operations has been the subject of years of regulatory disputes in both the Missouri and Arkansas portions of the watershed. A 2025 KSUR investigation documented the Spring River appearing to bounce back from previous contamination events. That is encouraging news, and it is also a reminder that the river was recovering from something, which implies there was something to recover from. River 5, the North Fork of the White River in Ozark County. The North Fork is one of the clear, cold rivers in Missouri. Spring discharge keeps it below 60 degrees year-round. Trout survive this far south because of that constant cold input. It looks like a river that was never touched by anything, and in relative terms, it has not been. The North Fork is in substantially better condition than most comparable rivers. Agricultural operations in the upper watershed contribute nitrate loading that conservation researchers monitor consistently. Elevated nitrate levels harm aquatic species and pose specific documented risks to infants, in whom high nitrate concentrations can interfere with blood oxygen capacity, a condition the medical community calls methemoglobinemia, known historically as blue baby syndrome. Most adult recreational users floating the North Fork would never detect elevated nitrate levels in the water. An infant formula mixed with water from a contaminated well in the watershed is a different exposure calculation. The North Fork also runs through one of the fastest growing rural real estate markets in the southern Ozarks. Residential development pressure brings more impervious surface, more septic systems operating near the river, and more stormwater runoff into a watershed whose biological value depends on the quality of water entering it, remaining high. The river looks clean. It is cleaner than most. The trajectory is the more important data point. River 6, the Jacks Fork River, Shannon County. The Jacks Fork is arguably the most pristine river in Missouri and among the cleanest rivers in the American interior. On calm summer days, floating over a deep pool on the upper Jacks Fork, the water is clear enough at 10 feet that you can count the individual rocks on the bottom. That clarity is a direct measure of the spring-fed water entering the system, without the sediment load that surface runoff carries. The Jacks Fork was designated part of the Ozark National Scenic Riverways in 1964, the first national scenic riverway in American history, because Congress recognized that the current river and Jacks Fork system was nationally significant enough to deserve federal protection. That protection has held. The rivers within the designation are in better condition than most comparable rivers in the country. The risk to the Jack's Fork is not from what is already in it. It is from the karst topography above it. Whatever enters a sinkhole in the drainage area can reach the river in days through the underground system, because the Ozarks karst moves water rapidly without the filtration that most people assume groundwater systems provide. A single contamination event upstream, an agricultural chemical spill, a failing rural septic system, or a fuel tank that fails on a remote property can enter the underground plumbing and emerge in the spring discharges before any surface monitoring catches it. The river's purity is real. It is also one bad upstream event from being something different, in a way that the surface appearance does not reveal. River 7. The Current River, Shannon and Carter counties. The Current River is the gold standard of Ozarks river quality. Big Spring discharges approximately 840 million gallons of water per day into it, the largest spring in the United States outside of Florida, and that constant cold input defines the character of the river downstream. The National Park Service manages it under the Ozark National Scenic Riverways. It is genuinely one of the finest float rivers in America. Missouri has 356 water bodies on its impaired waters list. The Current is not among them. The float trip operators running the Current are not steering tourists into a degraded waterway. The river is legitimately exceptional, but 87% of Missouri's impaired waterways got there because of non-point source pollution, the diffuse runoff from farms, construction sites, and developed land that comes from everywhere at once rather than from a single identifiable pipe. In 2023, Missouri legislators passed a budget amendment that environmental advocates argue weakened the Department of Natural Resources' ability to prevent non-point source pollution from entering Missouri waterways. Chris Weberg, Missouri's representative on the federal task force addressing the Gulf of Mexico dead zone, noted publicly that Missouri receives millions of dollars in federal funding specifically to reduce agricultural nutrient runoff into rivers. The amendment in 2023 complicated that relationship. The Current is clean today. The legal framework protecting it is not as strong as it was in 2022. Both facts are true simultaneously, and for now, the river is winning. Whether it keeps winning is a question being answered incrementally in Jefferson City by legislators who mostly do not float the Current on weekends. River 8. The Elk River, McDonald County. The Elk River in the extreme southwest corner of Missouri is one of the most floated rivers in the state during summer. It is also among the most impacted by its own recreational popularity. An irony the river would appreciate if rivers could appreciate things. High float traffic introduces E. coli into the water through human waste, and the Missouri Department of Natural Resources monitors these levels specifically during float season. The Elk River has exceeded safe recreational E. coli thresholds on documented occasions. This is the river's primary water quality problem, and it is caused directly by the recreational use that is also the river's main economic value. The river cannot be both things simultaneously at the volumes it currently handles, and the volumes keep growing. McDonald County is one of the poorer counties in Missouri. The float trip economy that the Elk River supports is real and significant for families whose businesses have operated for generations. Restricting float traffic to protect water quality directly affects those livelihoods. This tension between ecological integrity and economic survival has no clean resolution. The Missouri Department of Natural Resources monitors it, and operators work with regulators. The river keeps processing more people than the water quality data suggests it was designed to handle. River 9, the 11-Point River, Oregon County. The 11-Point is the least visited of Missouri's national scenic riverways. Fewer people float it in an entire year than float the Current River on a single holiday weekend. People who have floated both consistently describe it as more beautiful than the Current, the bluffs higher, the gravel bars wider, the spring pools clearer, the crowds essentially non-existent. It is fed by Greer Spring, which discharges approximately 214 million gallons per day, one of the largest springs in Missouri. The spring is accessible by a hiking trail through the Mark Twain National Forest, and it emerges from a cave and drops in a waterfall before reaching the river. The 11 Point runs through Oregon County, which has fewer than 10,000 residents across over 800 square miles. The combination of remoteness, low visitation pressure, federal protection, and a massive spring discharge that maintains consistent flow and temperature, even during drought, gives it a resilience the more heavily used Ozarks rivers cannot match. Go there, float it, tell someone else it exists. A river this good deserves more witnesses than it currently has. Just know what the drainage above it looks like first, because the karst system that makes its water exceptional is also the system that would move a contamination event from an upstream sinkhole to your canoe in days. The Ozarks rivers are genuinely among the cleanest rivers in America. That is not sarcasm. The cold, spring-fed rivers of the Missouri Ozarks are extraordinary compared to most of what the rest of the country is floating through. The big rivers lead contamination, the Meramec's dioxin legacy, and the Gasconade's Christmas Eve oil spill are the worst cases. They do not define the whole system. What the data shows across all 9 of these rivers is a system under pressure from multiple directions simultaneously, including mining legacy, agricultural runoff, recreational overuse, and political decisions that have weakened protection at exactly the moment when more protection is warranted. The rivers are recording what happens above them and reporting it downstream, the way they always have. The signs on the big river are posted because someone decided the public deserved to know. Most rivers in similar situations do not have signs. Most people who float them do not know to look for the advisory data on the Department of Natural Resources website. Most people making decisions about what protections remain in place have not read the same data that produced the big river signs. Subscribe if you have not. Hit the bell, drop a comment. Which of these have you floated? The Ozarks rivers deserve to stay what they are, and staying what they are requires knowing what is threatening them. Thank you for watching. The truth does not shout, it waits for you to look closer.